How's it going, YouTube? We're going to do what we've done before and just take a look at some of the regionals that happened this past weekend. So there's two main tournaments that happened, one in Hong Kong and one in Taiwan. You can see these were pretty big events, especially the Taiwan event. We'll get into that in a second here, but let's start with the Hong Kong one. This had a really interesting showing of cards or of decks that were played, completely different from the Taiwan ones, actually. So in this one, you can see there's a lot of water. Water was actually, I believe, in the top cut, there was 11 of the 16 were water. So that's a huge chunk of players who were on water versus anything else. This is quite different from how the Ascent Seattle went. Where there was a decent amount of all three elements in the top cut. But obviously that's an Ascent. This is a regional, different area in the world. But you can see in the top 16 here, look at all these water fractal Daochans. There's so many of those. There's several water mill Genbus. But let's take a look at the winning list, which is Wind Hybrid Tristan. So this one is not playing Shadow Reaver. It's just Shadow Dancer. We have Assassin's Ripper and Blinding Orb. And this deck is essentially kind of like allies, or can kind of go allies, but it has obviously the Shadow Strike for the finisher, so it's not running Penumbra Waltz for any kind of defense. It's running the Scatter Essence and the Mystic Purifiers, a full fleet of 4 each, so they're really trying to target those Fractal Fantasia decks, but it can do some early stuff with like an early Slice and Dice, so you just get 3 prep counters, and you can Slice and Dice if you've chipped enough damage with the allies that you have with Sadies and Black Market Brokers. But usually you're doing it with 4 prep counters, so you can bring out Assassin's Ripper, and then you go Assassin's Ripper and Slice and Dice for a total of 15 damage with 4 prep counters. So that's quite a bit of damage coming from just one deck. Sideboard is just more defense, and they do run the one of Penumbra Waltz in there, but you can see they still run even more Fantasia Hate in the side. So really concerned about the Fantasia Hate, and they also run Staggering Strike for the mirror. So that's something that's kind of interesting that they are doing, is that they were already taking for the mirror, and I'll point out why that's important later. But yeah, so just Wind Tristan took it down. Just kind of playing the generic Wind Tristan. It is running 2 Beseech, so they're really do want to get to level 3 when they can, or they can Beseech out Assassin's Ripper if they see a turn where they get enough prep counters, they get 4 prep counters, they can Beseech out Assassin's Ripper and Slice and Dice right on that turn as well. So a lot of versatility there, and they have Nullifying Lantern, so they are respecting the water mill decks, which obviously there were several, like I mentioned. There was some water mill Genbu decks in here. The water fractals, I won't talk about them too much because there were a lot of them played at Ascent Seattle, but you can see this one's slightly different in the fact that they are running Nascent Blasts and they are running Tome of Sorcery. So they bring out Tome of Sorcery and Empower 1 and then Nascent Blast, getting a free 3 damage in there, which to either kill off allies, like a Frostworm Paladin or whatever, but that could be very relevant. They are on a full 4 Frostworm Paladin. This is different from what we ran. At Ascent Seattle, what Caven won with, he only had a couple Frostworm and they were in the side. You can see on the side they have Art of War. Not a bad idea. Zhu Cheng, this is a really coul card. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some that actually have it in the main. But one thing I do want to point out before I take off real quick from this one, which is they also are running Tengu. So they are really getting some good draw options in here. They have Backup Charger, they have Tengu, obviously GCR, and getting one off a Scepter as well. So just a lot of generic draw cards that they really seem to want to get a lot of value off of that and really just find their combo pieces. Next, the decks, I'll skip the other water Daochan here. It's playing Baubles instead, but it's similar, a little different, obviously. They have different sideboards. They're on Extricating one of, a Captivating Opulence one of, but it's water Daochan fractals. They're also on the Paladins, but I want to talk about this Fire Fragmented Daochan. So really cool one with this. This is pure aggro, no level 2 or 3. Chess Club brought a level 2 and 3 deck similar to this in Seattle. And one of their players, Tristan, topped with it, so congrats to him. Slightly different variation. This is really going the aggro route, so they have Fanatical Devotee for some extra hit down burst damage, some Heated Vengeance in there. They are just going just ham and going face. They're playing Maidens to help boost. This is a Fantasia ally, so it is boosting their Shimmering Refractions and Glowering Conflagration. So just a lot of aggro in this deck that you wouldn't necessarily see from a slightly different list. And also, it's funny, it's running a 2 of Restorative Flame. This basically can heal you 6 based off of the fire cards in your graveyard. If you banish up to 3, you can heal up to 6. 2 for each card you banish. So kind of interesting there. They have a little survivability with that. Kind of a cool card. Gets shut off by Nullifying Lantern, which is kind of a bummer. They do run on the side, but they probably could swap that out. Swap this out when they swap this out. Yeah, cool deck. The aggro variants are very strong. They're respecting water with a Viridian Protective Trinket. It's also on 2 baubles, not disrespecting the fire, which, it's probably fair with how this event went. But there is a fire aggro Lorraine. So this one's going to level 2. It's playing 2 of the baubles, not playing the wind bauble, which kind of interesting. They don't think wind will be that. I wonder if they run in the side real quick. I haven't taken a look at this. They don't run even in the side, so they don't care about wind at all. They just said Nullifying Mirror is basically our wind card that we're going to bring out for Veiling Breeze. So that's probably the main reason why there's no wind bauble, is because they have Nullifying Mirror. But Arthur, Blazing Throw, Clumsies, Creative Shocks, Fire Memento, and this is a very standard stuff. The only new things that probably in here are this red hair, a full 4 of, and Sword Saint even Everflame. As a 3 of, this is similar to a Home by Fire, where it can give your weapon +2 attack, but this is only fire element weapon, but it can also hit a fire element ally. So if you have an ally on board, you can help them swing for more damage. And then Zhao Chao. This is just for the red hair. It is just a 2-drop 1/2 with stealth and can banish an ally on hit, so they don't get the on death effect and stuff like that. So also running Staggering Strike for those prep counter decks. Last deck I will check out. Like I said, there's a couple, but one of the ones I do want to point out is Water Mill Genbu. This is kind of the first time we've really seen this in a top setting. We did see it day 2 at Seattle by Superior Jim. He ran a deck similar to this, so it is going to 3. It's getting their Fabled Fate Stone out, the Sapphire Fabled Fate Stone, and getting a big turtle on board, and eventually you mill yourself a bunch, you use its effect, and then you swap its health and attack with resonating, and then that will do a lot of damage. It can one shot. I also have stratagem in here for just generic game plan of get a bunch of float and kill them early. And swing. You also beat them down with Oculus Stallions, Frostwarns, and the like. So you can either mill them out, mill yourself out, and swing for big damage, or just go for chip damage and or stratagem. So a lot of game plans that this deck can do. Nothing crazy in the idea, but it is crazy how much this can beat down. It's kind of cool. So you also have Tideholder Claymore, which is just a crazy card, honestly. If you want to go beat down, you just keep swinging face, and you can really do a lot of damage. And then the very last deck that I will talk about, because like I said, there's a bunch of Water Dao Chans in here and a lot of repeats. I'll briefly mention this one, which is a Norm deck, basically. It's playing some really unique cards with an Atmos armor type Hermes, giving all kind of an interesting one to put in. They're playing a lot of just interesting allies, but this is a Norm deck that you're hoping to get down Dawn of Ashes and Zhu Cheng on like your first couple turns, and it just really takes your opponent out of the game because they aren't able to play more than like 1 card per turn. If you look at a lot of these decks, like if I go back up to this fire one, of course, just how much fire is in this. This is all fire. There's no Norm cards, so Dawn of Ashes is putting in work there. If you look at the Water deck, this is, it has a couple Norm cards, but look at all the Water. And then if we go to even this Tristan deck, this is probably the most Norm in here, but look at, again, still a huge chunk of wind and just non-Norm cards in it. So Dawn of Ashes actually does put in a lot of work when you are against the decks that are in the meta right now. They are respecting the, again, another full 4/4 fleet of Fractal Hate. So I can understand why it would do well if against all these Water Dao Chans and they had a bunch of Fractal Hate. It makes sense that they're going to do well. But the last deck I was going to say is Fire Gaugia Aggro. Again, I think we saw some of this top 8 Seattle. So that's what we see here. We have a Arthur Young Heir. It's not too complicated of a deck. You go level 1 pretty soon as you can, so you can start getting the triggers on your Fabled Ruby Fate Stone by dealing non-combat damage to opponents. and stuff with your Cold Fate Stone, even or not even opponents, just anyone. Clumsy Apprentice, if you hit yourself, it will trigger this, give you a quest counter. Coiled will give you a quest counter. Ignite Fate even will give you quest counter. Fate Stone of Unrelenting will give you Rococo. There's a bunch of stuff that will give you quest counters. And there's just an aggro deck. I love Dire Requiem. This is really cool. This deck doesn't super rely on graveyards, so if they're bringing out a Nullifying Lantern, it's kind of a whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. But Dire Requiem is really cool because you put up 1 fire card in the drop, and this is a 2-cost deal 4 damage. It summons 2/2/1 wolves that will die at the end of the turn. But because of that, you're getting a 2-cost deal 4 damage, which is a really good value in this game for a burn spell. Yes, it can be stopped, they can be pinged off, so it makes sense. It's not completely super strong, but it is strong in the fact of how cheap it is. And when you play one, it puts, if you use a fire card, with it to put to get another Direwolf on board, this then goes in the drop, so you can play another one right after that. So if you go Arthur into a Dire Requiem into another Dire Requiem, that's a lot of damage right there. You have Arthur for 2, you have the first one swinging for of the wolves, you get 3 and 3 attack from each of them, so that's 6. And then if you do another one, that's another 6. So you got 14 damage right there from these 3 cards. And Arthur being able to be immortal on your first turn gives you a lot of value. So that's it for Hong Kong. Now we're gonna move on to Taiwan. Taiwan was a different breed of decks. The top 16, again, very similar in the style that there was a lot of the same decks, but a lot of just completely different decks. As you can see here, there is Wind Lorraine took it down. There's a Wind Hybrid Xander, Tristan, Lorraine, Xander, Lorraine, Tristan. So you can see a pattern here that there's a lot of the similar decks. Wind Lorraine. This is nothing crazy. I will point out some of the most important thing about this deck, which is this is just Wind Allies, but it has a lot of, you can see they're playing a lot of unique cards in here, a lot of safety. They have in-caps to stop, maybe their board from getting destroyed. They're playing Coronation Ceremony, which gives you Spell Shroud again, or a unit, any unit. It can be one of your guys as well. Protect them. But the most important thing about this deck is that it's running Sunshi. So, the reason why this is important is because it also runs Heaven's Rise, the new warrior weapon polearm. You go level 1, you bring out this polearm, you play a Sunshi, it gives it a durability, and so this is now a 1/3, except for Sunshi also gives a warrior's weapon +1 attack, so there's actually a 2/3 weapon, and this weapon allows unique warrior allies you control to swing with it, basically. So he can swing with it, so on the turn that you play him and go to Lorraine and bring him out, he's swinging for 3, so he's a 3-drop 3/4. Fierce Princess is a 2/3, so she's swinging for 4. And I believe the other one is Rose here. Yep, is also a warrior unique ally, so she would also be swinging for 4. So a lot of damage there. If you use Second Wind, you're getting a lot of damage with that as well. Again, I won't go too deeply into this because it is essentially at the end of the day just another Wind Allies deck, but does run a lot of cool stuff. Runs Hurricane Sweep in the side for the mirrors. And like I was talking about Hong Kong, where people are running Staggering Strike, that is definitely the case with this tournament as well. A lot of people were bringing and playing cards to counter the mirror. So Wind Lorraine brought Hurricane Sweeps out of the side for the mirror. If we go into Wind Hybrid Xander here, this is just essentially beatdown until you can slice and dice for the kill, essentially. It plays just aggro, go face, get some chip damage in with the Sables, the Sadies, the Shimmer Cloaks, the Black Market Brokers. Basically just go face, but you can see in the side, they're running Staggering Strike. So this is for the Mirror or any other Assassin's deck. This is a really cool deck. It goes really, really fast. It goes to level 2, and then you can go Emergent Dagger. So this is similar to Assassin's Dagger, I believe it's called, Assassin's Blade. The one costs 1/2, use a prep counter, and then it gets +2 attack for the turn. So similar, exact same thing where if you use this with Slice and Dice, you are dealing a combination of 15 damage right there. So we just need 1 less prep counter. So we'll go back here and we'll go to Wind Hybrid Tristan. This is similar to the list that won the whole event in Hong Kong. Just has a Penumbra Waltz in the main. You can see it's running 2 Staggering Strikes though. They're teching for the mirror already. It doesn't have the Mystic Purifiers at all in the deck list, but they are running Scatter Essence and then more Fantasia Hate in the side. Or for the mirror, this gets rid of 2 shadows as well. So you can see that they're doing the same game plan that the other list that won did, and then I won't talk about the other wind hybrids, Tristan's or Xander's, but I'll talk about this Fire Ari real quick. Running a lot of draw, running Polaris, so they can go up to level 2 to board clear if they need to. Maybe 2 herbs is enough here. But they don't even have to do that because they are running Slash and Burn. So this is using a combination of Cinderbloom Tender, Slash and Burn to ping your opponent for a bunch of 1s. So you deal 1 to them, 1 to them, 1 to them every single time you gather, but also deals 1 damage to you. And what's really good about this is that if you pair it with Searing Rebuke, you give yourself prevention of 3, and then you Slash and Burn with a Cinderbloom Tender on board. This deals 1 damage to each champion. So your opponent's taking 1, you're taking 1, but it's being blocked by Searing Rebuke. And since this has 3 prevention, you'll take 1, prevent it, deal 3 damage to your opponent. Take 1 again from gathering. If you gathered at least 3 times, take 1, deal 3 damage to your opponent. Take another 1, deal 3 damage to your opponent. And then all the durability or all the preventions have been used on this. But you dealt 9 damage to your opponent with this alone, and then another 4 from gathering 4 times with Slash and Burn. So this is built like Erupting, where you're just going fast, you're going for card draw, is susceptible to Lantern and Fractualized Lantern, because it is graveyard stuff. It is based off of getting a bunch of graveyard, a bunch of fire cards in graveyard with Slash and Burn, using Absolving Flames to get rid of fire cards so you can draw more cards. It really needs to gather, so it can either do that and then Kindling Flare for a little extra damage. But a really cool deck. It did top this event, so it's kind of cool to see different types of decks. Other than that, there's Wind Ally Lorraine again, Tristan again. This one's just called Wind Lorraine. I believe it's just allies. Yeah, it's just allies again. Yep, just this is more like automatons where it's running Rose and Adronica and Shimmer Cloaks. Just that little automaton package to buff them up and then use Rally Advance to either or Second Wind to restand them and swing for more damage. So nothing crazy there. We do see a Fire Aggro Xander top 16 at least. Fire Aggro Xander really strong. Doing stuff with Impact Hammer and Rending Flames to hit for 10 damage is crazy. And it's really aggressive with just 4 cards in hand, and like 3 fire cards in the drop. So it is rating Sables and Sadies, so it's getting a little bit of prep counter generation, running the Incap, so it can play a little bit safer if it needs to if someone tries to counter them, they can maybe counter back and get the win off of that as well. Last deck I will talk about here is Fire Serene Xander. It's been a while since we've seen some, I guess we saw some in Seattle, but we haven't seen Fire Xander top of an event in a while. So it's playing the new Striking Illuminance. This is essentially similar to Uncover the Plot, where it reveals your memory, and then this gets stronger for every single luxem card that was revealed. Really cool to pair with a Lightweavers, where you go striking first, and maybe you have a Lightweavers down, so you ping them for 2, or you get to heal off of it as well. Just a lot of damage there. This is a really high luxem count. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 21 luxem cards. That is a huge count. And so you really need to have this glimpse spirit enabled for you to be able to, just not have a really clogged hand at the beginning. So, but yeah, it's playing one of Gwen, one of Crystalline Destiny, just really just trying to survive and getting to level 3, getting value off of Fast Cure and Gentle Respite. Super cool deck. It is running reprograms, and it's funny because there was some robots running around, so good on them for recognizing that. But yeah, that is it for all the events that happened this weekend. We will be running our own event coming up this next weekend on Saturday the 29th. It will be streamed, so be sure to check back out here on this channel if you want to see a regional live event starting at 11 a.m. EST. So check it out. It is the Michigan Regional hosted by us, True Champion Gaming, and it'll be a really fun event. We capped it out, which is awesome. So it should be a good time. But in any case, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.